I never wanted to get married until I
Mm.
wanted to marry my wife. The uncertainty to go through all of that process and to not know if you would get to like the finish line. So I don't know if I'm parenting them well, right? I know I'm doing my best. My desire to do well in my profession is to excel in, like as a father and as a family.
Welcome to Baby Bump and Business, the podcast exploring what it really looks like to build a business and a family at the same time. I'm your host, B. Troford Wilson, photographer, educator, and first-time mom, sharing the real unfiltered journey of parenthood and entrepreneurship. In honor of Father's Day, this special series highlights fathers in the creative and entrepreneurship space, diving into their experiences with fatherhood, providing, partnership, and pursuing purpose while raising a family. Because this journey isn't just about moms, it's about the families we're building together. So let's get into it. Today's guest is Alan Cooley. Alan is a talented director and photographer based in Atlanta, Georgia, and has shot some of the biggest names in entertainment and beauty, such as Magic Johnson, Taraji P. Henson, Morris Chestnut, Kevin Hart, and Tony Braxton. He has not only worked with some of the most amazing talent, but also incredible brands such as Revlon, Procter & Gamble, Head & Shoulders, Pantene, Cream of Nature, Curlbox, and The Main Choice. Growing up in California and then living in various places, primarily New York and New Jersey, helped him develop an appreciation for clean and polished images. He is a husband and a father of two beautiful girls. Welcome to the podcast, Alan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate that intro. That was fly. And I'm honored to be here.
Yes, yeah. But I always love reading the bios of artists because I feel sometimes we never hear the work that we do. And then when you hear it, you like,
Word.
dang, I did that.
I did a few of those things. Right.
You were like,
I need to write those down and put them in my office.
Listen,
It's a
put
little
it on a
reminder.
plaque.
Yeah,
Yes,
because
yes.
I'm sure we're about to get into it, but sometimes you get so consumed with other things, you'll forget the work that you've done.
Exactly. Talking about the work that you've done, let's go a little bit back. What started you into photography as a whole?
It sounds kind of romantic, but it's not. I just really wanted to cultivate myself. So I went to school for computer science. I used to like write poetry and do like slam competitions, but I never saw that as like a profession as much as it was just kind of like a hobby. And I wanted to like do things that I felt like could like elevate myself as a younger person. So I said I was going to learn how to play the piano and then I was going to do photography. And I was broke, so I couldn't afford a piano or a keyboard. And my dad at the time had an old camera. So I just kind of took his camera and started taking pictures. And it just kind of continued from there, quite honestly.
Oh, so I have to, first of all, I got to give you some applause because I was a slam poet in college. So
Oh,
shout out
word?
to the poets. Yes.
Dope. I didn't know that.
Shout out to the creatives. Shout out to the poets.
Dope. I did not know that. That's ill.
Yes,
I still
yes.
think I'm a better poet than I am a photographer, but I haven't written in like 10, 15 years.
So maybe you got to pick it back up. We may have to do like
Yeah.
a veteran slam poet competition, you know?
Word. Right. We might have to do a little
Dusting it
double
off.
up thing. Yeah, might
Yes,
have
yeah.
to.
That'd be dope. That's dope. So at what point did you realize I want to actually take this seriously and turning it into an entrepreneurship journey?
I don't know how much of it was me kind of making that decision and how much of it was kind of like my universe making that happen. I got a degree in computer science, and the thought was like, all right, when I graduate from college, I'll go get a degree. I'll go get a job in that field, but nobody wanted to hire me, right? I didn't have any experience and nobody would give me a job so I can get some experience. So I was taking pictures throughout college, making a few dollars. So when I graduated, it was like, all right, I'll take pictures as my kind of day to day until I can get hired to get a real job. That was my thought process, is that once I get a real job, I'll sit this photography stuff down. And it continued on that way, right? Like I kept saying, all right, when I can find a real job, then I'll put the photography thing down, or at least put it back onto a side hobby. And what is it, like almost 25, 30 years later, I still didn't get a real job. This is my thing.
So at what point did you meet your now wife in this journey?
So a friend of mine back in the day hit me up to go to our mutual college friend's house for a birthday party. And it was a house party. So we went to the house, we were sitting down. It was, at this point, it was like 10, 11 years ago. And I really didn't necessarily want to go, but I just went because I didn't have anything else to do. So when we got to the party, everybody was playing games and being social and all these things. And there was one woman that was sitting to the side that looked like she didn't want to be there either. So I ended up trying to strike conversation with her because I kind of felt like we had the same energy about like, we're here. We don't we're not mad about being here, but we don't necessarily want to be here. And then from there, we just continued on with small conversations. I hit her up to see if she wanted to go get something to eat one time, and then slipped up and got married.
Don't you love that when it's like,
Yeah.
and now we here.
Right, right, right. Like literally.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, at what point after you guys got married, where were you in your entrepreneurship journey? Were you like, okay, this is what I'm gonna really, I want to pursue this, and now we're really doing this, or what was that like for you?
I mean, this has been the only like true job that I've committed to. So like I've been doing this like before I met her, but the level at which I was doing was always relative, right? Like, and I mean, you know how this goes, the ebbs and flows of the business. Sometimes it feels like, all right, I've hit my stride. This is the new cadence. And then the ground falls out and it feels like you start back all over again. So there were some moments early on where I believed that it was like, all right, well, I'm in my pocket, right? And then I'm starting from scratch. My wife is corporate, like always been corporate. She was very strategic about her movements to go from one company to another or one position to another. She had to educate me on some of the titles and the differences and the nuances, especially being a Black woman in these corporate spaces, and me being much more kind of like hands on. Like the money that's coming into the business, I have to kind of make sense of how to do it. With her, it's a further disconnection, right? Like she's doing something for the company, but it may not be directly correlated to the revenue that the company brings in. It might be like a bigger disconnection. She and I have had very interesting conversations about it. So as I progressed in my career and she's progressed in hers, it just kind of cultivated from there. So I'd say early on for sure, but I had some highlights early on as well. So I don't know how I would contextualize it, but it wasn't where I'm at now. Like I feel like I'm a seasoned photographer now. Then I still felt like I was still early in the game.
Gotcha. So, when it came to wanting to expand your family, what was that conversation like for both of you? Of like, okay, this is a season that we want to get into. What are the things that we have to actually put in place to make sure that we can go about this?
Ooh, that's a heavy one. So I'll say this. I never wanted to get married until I
Mm,
wanted to marry my wife, right? Like I had all of the ideas about what marriage was, and I wasn't interested in those things. And I mean, I didn't even want to be in a relationship until I wanted to be in a relationship with my now wife. I didn't want to be married until I decided I wanted to marry her. I didn't want to have kids until I decided I wanted to have kids with her. It was very much a strong position against these things, or not necessarily against them, but it was like, yo, I'm good, right? And then I grew feelings for her that I didn't know could exist. And it was like, oh, I can understand why somebody would want to get married because I want to marry her. Or wow, what it would be like to to raise a child with her change things. You know what I mean? So I think that she very much was clear that she wanted to eventually get married. She never kind of it wasn't a conversation about pressuring me to get married or pressuring me to have kids. It was just that was where she was and that's where I was. And I don't know what we did. Just to level set for a second, my wife and I, we had to go through IVF, right? So the dynamic about how we went about having kids isn't necessarily the most traditional because we weren't able to just kind of be like, all right, we're gonna tuck some money to the side and prepare ourselves. A large chunk of our money went into the IVF process because we didn't have the insurance to cover it. So that was the plan that we had to work out. That was the
mm,
piece that we had to, like if we were putting money to the side, it wasn't for once the baby got here, it was to have the baby in the first place. And I think that
mm.
was the biggest like hurdle. And I think after we got past that hurdle, then we tried to scramble to do all the other things, right? Like as far as stacking some money to the side and if we were doing a nanny or what have you. And we had our daughter during COVID, or our first daughter, we had her during COVID. So that was a process in and of itself.
So, talking a little bit about that IVF journey from a man, I've heard a lot of that stories from a woman's perspective, from a man's perspective in that support role. What was that like for you, and what were ways that you had to support your wife going through that transition and that process?
It seems so weird because I've had conversations with other gentlemen or dads that have gone through the IVF with their significant others, and it's such a weird dynamic to talk about ourselves in that process.
Mm,
It's almost like we're not allowed to talk about ourselves in that process because if there is a ratio or a percentage of what we went through in comparison to our partners, our percentage is significantly low. So how dare we? Right? But if I give myself the permission to have a feeling about the process, it was hell. Like it was hell for me. It was hell for me having to see somebody that I love go through it and not and it not be a pleasurable experience, and the uncertainty to go through all of that process and to not know if you would get to like the finish line. And even once you got to what you imagined to be the finish line, we still had to birth the child and we still had to bring the child to this world. And it was like all of those things. And then also being a partner in that experience, but also feeling like I'm not allowed to ask any of the questions I want to ask, right? I can't have these kind of open dialogue conversations with the doctor because the doctor has no obligation to speak to me. It's like it needs to go through my wife my wife. I was about to say my partner at the time, but she was my wife. It needs to go through my wife before that question can be answered. So a lot of that was concerning. And I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with the IVF process, but there's a lot of like physical stuff that you have to do. And there's a lot of pain that comes along with that. And my wife wasn't the most inclined to wanting to do those things. I mean, obviously she knew she had to do them, but then it's a matter of like, I needed to be there to administer a shot. Right. And there was a lot of those. Right. And I'm working. And this is like, I'm booming right now. So I got to go to LA to do a job, but we got to do these shots several times a week and you can't do them to yourself. So now I got to try to see if I can adjust this job to work around our schedule. But I don't want to let them know about what's going on because they may decide to pass because they think they're doing me a favor by
Mm.
giving the job away so that I can be there. Right. But I also need the money for the process. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
it's like all of that, as well as the idea of just trying to be a support system and not suggest to my wife that this is taking a toll on me because I know the toll that it's taking on her is significantly higher.
Woo, woo. Okay, I want to dive into some of the things that you talk about. So, one thing that you brought up about is like you not wanting to tell the job because you don't want them to pass because they're going to think that they're giving you a favor. And I think that that's something that a lot of creatives and freelancers we fear within this space where it's like, okay, we don't want to be vulnerable. Even like with me being a new mom, I rarely tell clients that I'm a new mom or I'm still nursing and those things because I don't want to be like, well, it's going to be inconvenient. We'll just go to the next photographer. It's like, no, I need this
Right.
bread. I need the job. I need the
Right.
money.
I
Like,
said I have a baby. That's why I need
right.
this. Right.
Like more reason to why I need this. So
Right.
talking a
Exactly.
little bit about that, how did you navigate those conversations with your clients? Or if you weren't navigating it with the clients, what were things that you had to figure out with your wife to make sure that, hey, I still want to be able to support you in this journey, but financially I still have to provide for this journey as well.
So the thing that I've constructed for myself as far as my business is concerned, whether I knew it to be this way or not, is that I'm very private, right? Like I don't post myself online and don't necessarily show myself doing things, right? I might show behind the scenes and you might catch me from the back of my shoulder or whatever. Even with podcasts, I've declined these types of things that dealt with video just because I wanted to make it a point to kind of keep myself away from the camera for whatever reason. And that has played well as it relates to this specific topic because there was I don't think my clients felt like they had that I had an obligation to share those things with them. So I had situations where the clients would be like, I didn't even know you had a kid. I didn't even know you just had a kid. I didn't know that your wife was pregnant. And all of those things were fine because it was like I didn't feel the need to kind of communicate those things, or they couldn't go on my social media and see all of these kind of personal moments between my wife and I that they could essentially, what I always say is they make decisions for me, right? Like
Hmm.
I didn't do I didn't keep those things away from social for that reason, but the byproduct of me keeping those things away from social was that I had a client that scheduled a meeting for me to come into the office, and I think it was like 2 days after we came home from the hospital. And I knew that if I had said that we were just coming home from the hospital, they would have postponed. And you know how the game goes. It's like the client might have the money to do the project, but if it gets postponed for like a half a day, that money just might disappear into
Change.
thin air. So you want to try to lock down as much as you can, as quickly as you can. So it was me saying, yeah, I'm available. Of course. Right. Like that. I would just find a way to make things kind of work out. And that's what I did. And my wife understood that. I mean, obviously she didn't give me any pushback. And these were like small scenarios early on.
So even with that, dealing with your wife, how did you have to, especially for someone coming from a corporate world and understanding this entrepreneurship creative journey, were there any times where you had to actually explain to your wife, like, this is serious to me and why I have to make these sacrifices? Because oftentimes, even like for me now, when it comes to taking a job, because I'm the mother, I have to ask my husband, okay, can I do this? What does your schedule allow? Now it feels like I'm asking my husband permission to do jobs that
Mm,
before it's like, I'm out, I'll be back in three
I'm doing
days,
the thing.
see
Right,
you
right,
later.
right.
Like I'm working, where now it's like we have to have more conversation about the work and about these
Yeah.
different topics.
Yeah. I like to imagine that my wife never dated anybody before me. Right. but I know that that's not the case, and I know that in some of her past relationships, she dealt with gentlemen that were entrepreneurs or that didn't have traditional jobs. So I think to some degree or another, she had a relatively decent understanding of the fact that there was a bit of an organic movement to my schedule, right? Like I wasn't going to take the opportunity or I wasn't going to do the job if it was something I didn't feel like was necessary. And luckily, like I said, because I was moving in a really good space at that time, the types of opportunities was getting were justified. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a smaller thing that was insignificant. It was typically something that was substantial enough to kind of like give us like a chunk that we could eat off of for a month or two. So it made it easier when I did have to have those conversations. I think the traveling out of town was still difficult. We don't have like the traditional support system. I'm an orphan and my mother-in-law has passed away and my father-in-law lives in Alabama. So it wasn't like we were going to just drop them off at the grandparents or the grandparents were going to swing by and watch them. So like there's a different dynamic there that we had to make sure that we factored in. Even to this day, we still have to kind of figure out how we're going to navigate things because of those things. I'm a helicopter dad. So like it's very hard for me to let my babies just go anywhere with anybody.
Right. So I was gonna say, so talking about that, so now that you have 2 girls and especially living in Atlanta, I remember I toured a couple of daycares and when I saw how much they cost, I was like, "This is more than the mortgage."
Listen.
And then you're seeing things on social media, and it's like, I don't trust nobody, and I have to trust my child in a room with a whole bunch of kids and you, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's hard to make that decision. So, what does it look like now, especially if you have to travel for work or working on set on long hours? What does that look like, and how do you have to navigate that with your children?
So I I don't know, we just make it work. I want it to sound like dope because we're on a podcast right now, but I don't know. We just figured out. I'm about to go out literally next week. I'm leaving next week to go to LA, then from LA to Texas, then from Texas to New York, and then New York back home.
Mm,
I I just talked to her. I mean, I just finished booking the flights this morning, and my wife she works from home. I went down to her office and I was like, "Hey, I'm just letting you know I just booked the flights." It's like, "What do we need to do before I leave?" And she was like, "I don't know. We'll figure it out." I mean, what is the other option?
right, right.
So I don't I we don't have like a very good prescription to it. I mean, we have nannies or babysitters that we can reach out to try to help fill the gaps, and that's what I'm sure we'll try to figure out for next week. But if they all say they're not available, I'm not going to turn the job down, and she's not going to like take off from work. We're just gonna figure it out.
Right. And even I think that's a beautiful thing right there where it's like when you're in partnership with someone, at the end of the day, you guys are teammates. And it's like, we're going to
Word.
figure it out regardless. Like you got to do this. I got to do this. We're going to figure out what has to happen in that in between. But I think
Exactly.
like the communication is the most important part. And what did the communicating come easy for you? Or was that something that you had to work through to learn, okay, I have to communicate or I have to overshare or share earlier my plans for travel or things like that now that we have kids?
The funny thing is when it deals with work, it's easy for me to communicate it because I know that it's going to like if it's something like this, right? Like this podcast, I just put it on the calendar. We got a calendar. It's fine, right? If I have a shoot that's at my studio, I just toss it on the calendar. The only things that we really have to put some thought into are when I'm going to be out of town because there's these transitional periods. So like my wife might technically she finishes working at 5 o'clock, right? But both of the girls are at home. And if she has a meeting that's running over, I need to bring the girls away from wherever she's at in her office. Because if she's going to have a meeting, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be like some type of a Zoom or Teams or something where they're going to hear and see her. And I don't need the girls running in there while she's in the middle of the meeting. So those are the types of situations on her end where I'd have to kind of like run coverage. And then if I'm going to be running late or if I'm going to be at the studio for a long period of time, then it's vice versa. So like she might have to play coverage in that regard. But yeah, when it comes to the professional like business stuff, I think that those are the scenarios that we have very clearly cut out. I think it's more like she wants to go to the Usher and Chris Brown concert, and it's like, all right, well, if we both go, who has the kids? Is that till like whatever 12, 1 o'clock in the morning? Right? Or if she goes with her homegirls, that's fine because I could just watch the girls. Or if I wanted to go by myself, right, then she would watch the girl. You know, like those are the types of things I think that we would have to have more in depth conversation about.
Gotcha. Okay, now you brought up the calendar. Whose idea was the calendar?
Me. I live and die by the calendar. She
So
does too. She does too, but she has like a work calendar that she lives and dies by. I have a calendar that has all the things on it, like all the
mm,
things. If I said I need to go to the grocery store, I'm gonna just put it on my calendar, but that's gonna be the calendar that she sees as well.
I feel like that's a creative because that's me. Like if I have to babysit or pick up my nephew, it's on the calendar. I live and die by the calendar. I have someone watching my daughter next week, and I sent her a calendar invite. She's like, "Did you just send me a calendar invite?" I said, "Yes, for my
Mhm.
sanity and for yours. Like we're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
know this together."
That's the only way
Perfect.
because so many things kinda get jumbled up. It's like I use that as an opportunity to help me remember.
Definitely. And especially when I feel like as artists and as entrepreneurs, mind is always on a million and one things at the same time.
Mm.
Like it's never just, you're never just
Yeah,
focused on one thing. You're always hyper focused. So you need somewhere where you can organize your thoughts and organize everything and know that, okay, I already tackled this because it's on the calendar. I don't have to worry about it
exactly.
anymore.
Exactly,
Beautiful.
100%.
So I want to go a little bit back. With having your two daughters, d within your work, were there any boundaries you had to set within your work, whether it's like doing back-to-back shoots or how many hours you're at the studio when they were younger? Were there any things that you had to implement to make sure that you can be more present during, like, that newborn stage into toddler, or what did that look like for you?
So not necessarily for my first girl because we had her during COVID. So it was like the world kind of shut down. So it was easier to just be around because the world had shut down. Right? Clients were a little bit more or significantly more apprehensive about doing productions because they didn't know what the ramifications were. So they were just kind of repurposing old digital assets. So that just meant that I was in front of my computer editing or retouching or what have you. So it was easy to be around. My second girl is a little bit different, but we had already kind of constructed a structure because we understood what we were getting into so that we were a little bit more prepared for what that might look like. So it doesn't affect her. Well, let me rephrase it. I can't speak for how it affects her. I think that we have a better plan about how to navigate those longer days because of having one child and now having two. But I haven't had to do anything in particular at least nothing that comes to mind as far as that's concerned. I mean, the more I don't do shoots till 12 and 1 o'clock in the morning or not. Like I've tried not to be about that life since I was in my 20s. So like that's not a thing. I try not to shoot on the weekends unless I absolutely have to. I try not to have call times that start later in the day. I try to get my call times to start early in the day. Some of that is because of just how productions work. You want more time ahead of you to be able to make some adjustments if necessary. So I don't think I've had to put in any barriers or anything or any provisions in place.
But that kinda sounds like you did, like the not working on the weekends and early call times. That sounds like success right there, knowing that you can have that time for your kids or put that not even I know you said you did before having kids, but even being to be a husband, to be a
Right.
partner, to be a friend, to be all those things, you're setting those boundaries and those sides that time
Word.
aside. I think that's
Right.
great.
Right.
Great tips.
And
Great
see,
tips.
I think that's actually the biggest difference, right? Is because before it was like those were like nice to haves, but if it went past that, or if I ended up having to shoot on the weekend, it was just me not wanting to shoot on the weekend. It wasn't that I couldn't. So now, perhaps
Right.
that might be the thing, right? Like now I'm a bit more stern about saying no on the weekends because of the kids, whereas before it's just kind of like I would avoid those. I might even tell people that I was booked on Saturday and Sunday already as a means of forcing them to try to pick a new date.
Right. Right. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So now that your girls are older, and you give us a little bit of glimpse on social media of their personality. What's that like being a father of these two beautiful grown girls that have personality that are probably I was a young girl at one time, so I know probably talking back and basically running the house.
What is it like? Huh. That's all I got. I don't even know, like, if I when I was imagining being a parent, I had not factored in being the father of a daughter. Not like I always wanted to have sons or I was expecting to have sons, but just the tenderness or the sweetness or the kindness was not a consideration. So, like, I don't know what it means to even now. Like, my girls are 6 and 3, right? Like, it's relative. They're not too grown. They act grown, but they're not too grown, right? And I don't know what it means to like to uh to punish them. Like my parents whooped my behind, whoop whatever they had. My dad might have whooped me with a Timberland boot before, right? Like it didn't even. It was like whatever was nearby. And I feel like I turned out all right. So the thought process was like mine was going to be some iteration of that, maybe a bit more watered down than that. Having two girls, it's like they don't have. We were just talking about daycare, childcare, or like going to daycares. We looked at like 6 or 7 daycares. Out of those 6 or 7 daycares, there might have been a total of like 4 men that worked in that building in its entirety. And those 4 men, none of them were in the classroom. They might have been in the kitchen. They might have been doing maintenance. They might have been like janitorial work, right? Like none of them were in the classroom. So the thought process that I was going to have girls that were being hit by a man and I'm being the only man that they were going to see for the vast majority of the early part of their lives just didn't sit right well with me. Now what they mama do is a
Mm.
different conversation. I mean, we don't we don't whoop our kids, but nonetheless, what mom does is a different dynamic. But just the thought process of like you're not gonna really have that many interactions with a male figure. And the one male figure that you will know the most will be the one that is like popping you or hitting you. It just didn't sit right with me. I have to catch myself from yelling, right? Because if I say sit down and I say it loud, they'll jump and get startled and like get ready to start crying, right? Because it's like just the loudness of my voice is jarring enough to make them feel away. So it's difficult for me to still make sense of how to navigate that.
I think that's beautiful because
So I'm
you
just
don't
being
really
ran.
hear
They're just
men
running me
sharing that.
basically. They're just running
But
me.
I think it's beautiful because you rarely hear men explain it from that perspective. Like, I'm gonna be the male that they're going to look up to. I'm that male role model. I'm all of those things. So I'm really setting the precedent from the way that I treat them, the way that I discipline them. Every little thing is plays a role on how they're going to look at men as a whole. I think that's beautiful, and thank you for sharing that transparently because
Or
you
I
don't
had
hear.
never thought about it until now. I mean, my wife and I had these conversations early on. I was like, damn, so how does society really see men? Like, if we're not allowed to be in any of these places, it's like, damn, we must really suck. Like, you don't, and it's like, you don't want men in the classroom. You don't want men at the front desk of the facility. Like, you don't want them to have any interaction or they don't want to. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, either the
Right.
spaces don't want them or they don't want to be there. And it's just such a scary thought to think of me having girls that are going to move about the world. And if they have interactions with males and in educational spaces or just professional spaces, what those implications might be because they haven't had to make sense of that at an early age because the spaces that they're in typically don't have.
Right, right. So even talking about that, what have you found within yourself that you had to do? Like, I'm not sure if you're an emotional man, right? Like, my husband's Caribbean, and I was like, we need a daughter because you need to soften up a little bit, and it's definitely happened, you know. So with you, what were things that you had to do within yourself, especially being now a girl dad? Were there things that you had to learn or unlearn to be able to parent them the way that you want to parent?
So I don't know if I'm parenting them well, right? I know I'm doing my best. Most of the stuff that I feel like I've learned or that I wanted to make sense of kind of derives from like my own personal traumas. I don't know if it was so much of just like a blanket, I'm a parent and how will I parent, as much as like, yo, all of these things have happened to me. Let me make sure I don't pass that down. Right. Like
Mm,
my mother's from Georgia, my father's from Alabama, and they were both like very southern folk, right? So there was a lot of family dynamics that played a part in their psychology. So how they handled me was affected by how they were affected as children. And I think that I was able to bear witness to that, right? The dynamic of my mom with her mother or her father, the dynamic with my dad dropped out of school because my grandmother was so poor he had to get a job.
mm,
His expectations from me as it related to school were much more high because I needed to get an education because he wasn't afforded one in the same manner. So
yeah.
it wasn't him just being a dad as it relates to my education. It was like, yo, you got to show up because I couldn't, right?
Mm,
So I then could see the trauma that or the experiences that I had with my parents, and I could understand how I would want to take those traumas and leverage them against my ability to be a parent and subsequently pass burdens down to my kids that they didn't deserve. So I wanted to get some type of therapy to make sense of how to reconcile those things. So I didn't like pass that down, but I needed to make sense of how that would show up. And I don't think I made sense of that until after they got here and I saw the types of scenarios we'd have to be in. I used to sit up and like stare at my daughter while she was sleeping, like a lot of parents did, because I just want to make sure she was still breathing. Right. Like that wasn't something I had even an idea that I would want to do or think to do until she was here. So there were some things that I acknowledged, but it wasn't so much about being a parent as much as it was about like, well, what are my issues and how could those issues
mm.
show up? And those are things that I needed to make sense of for marriage as well. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't just exclusive to parenting, but I think that they all just kind of fit together, if that makes sense.
That's beautiful. So, being an entrepreneur and having two beautiful girls, what were the things that you had to like? For me, the hardest part now is turning off my brain when I'm home, like being in full time mommy mode and not thinking about the work and just, be enjoying the moments, right? Did you ever face any struggles with that? And if so, what were ways that you were able to turn it off to focus on, I'm at home now, my computer's closed, my phone is on do not disturb, I'm here with just the girls and my wife?
I haven't figured that out yet. It's like if there's work involved or if I got work on my brain, I'm not even going to try to convince myself to figure out how to cut it off. Because
Mm,
when there's no work, I'm locked into the kids or I'm locked into the right.
right,
Like I I I in my mind, I believe I could do that very well if I worked in a corporate environment, right? Where it's like when I leave the job, I can shut it off. But in this environment, I don't believe that that is realistic for me. And that's not suggesting that it's not realistic for others, or it's not even realistic for me if I can figure it out. But I haven't put that level of effort in. I enjoy the way that we live. I enjoy the things that we're able to afford the girls. I enjoy the experiences and opportunities. And I think that those things come from work. And I'd love the idea in my mind of being able to be like, I'll get back to work whenever I get back to it. Let me just lock in with the girls. But that hasn't been my experience. Like I've needed to stay locked in until the end of that task, and then I could lock in with them. If
right.
that makes sense. Like I have this production
Yeah,
next week, and the turnaround on this production is insane. Dad is halfway checked out this whole week because of this production next week. But when dad gets home and the deliverables are done, we back to normal.
right. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I think that's, we often speak about mom guilt. I don't know if that sounds like father guilt, but I think like for me, I've had that guilt, like feeling
Mm,
guilty about doing that, but then also like, this is how I provide for her. But then also, I feel more motivated when I'm with my daughter. Like, I think more because I'm more motivated and I'm just looking at her and it's like,
mm,
she just birthed a thought or birthed an idea. And it's like, now my mind is racing about this idea that I
right.
just thought of because I'm holding her and looking at her and
Or
motivated
get
by her
inspired by it,
presence.
right.
Exactly. It's like, it's hard to shut off, but then it's one of those beautiful things like you're the birth of the motivation. You're the birth of the idea.
Mm,
If I follow through with it, I can look back and say, you're the reason that we're here. You're the reason I was able to accomplish this or do
word.
this or get like, even I posted on threads. I've been like, when I'm putting her down for a nap and she's just on my chest, I usually use that time to send out pitches. Like, or just
Mm,
code emails. And it's like, cause it's like a motivating thing. Like, I'm doing this for you now. Like, I was doing it for
that's dope.
myself, but now it's like, I'm doing this for you and you helping with this baby magic right now, you know?
That's interesting. I might say I have a similar thought process, but I never thought about it the way that you just positioned it. For me, my motivation before having kids was to excel in my profession. Now, my desire to do well in my profession is to excel in, like as a father and as a family, right? Like I want us to be able to go places and do things and for them to have experiences. So it's like I want to do well in this other area for them before I wanted to do well in this other area for the sake of doing well in the other area.
Right, right. So what do you think that most people should understand when it comes to being an entrepreneur, but also balancing being a father as well?
I don't know if I should tell other people, but I'll say for myself, I just don't feel guilty for having to do the work.
Mm,
I've been broke. Do you know what I mean? Like I've had to make very kind of regular decisions between whatever, putting gas in the car or getting something to eat. And I might just have to walk to get something to eat so I can save the gas that's in the car, if that makes sense. Right? Those types of scenarios. And to not be in that situation again is way more important now that I have other people depending on me. So I give myself the permission not to feel guilty for having to like go deeper and like dig in and do the work and in certain situations not being the most available. And I'm not saying that that's the right thing to do. I'm just acknowledging that that's what it is.
so if you were to give advice to another father or a soon to be father who's in the creative field, what is one piece of advice that you would want to give them as they navigate this new journey into fatherhood?
Give yourself grace. Everything that you're doing right, be okay with the fact that it could be wrong and
Mm,
change, right? Like everything I'm doing today, everything I say on this podcast might not age well. And next month I'll be like, that was stupid. I really should be doing X, Y, and Z. And I'm okay with pivoting. Like I think that that is the benefit or the luxury of being human is that there are errors that I'll make and I'll be able to make adjustments based off of those. I pray that I can make those adjustments quickly, but I want to fall fast so that I can do that. And I think that that's the main thing is to give myself grace. I think that's big. One of the biggest lessons I learned as it relates to my experience as a parent compared to how I saw my
mm,
parents. I thought that they knew how to be parents. So when they did something wrong in my mind as a kid, I judged them much more harshly.
mm.
Like my dad died at 39. 39, I thought he was like 78. You know what I mean? Like 39 sounded crazy old. I was like, yeah, you are a full blown adult and you passed away. And now I see 39 and I'm like, oh, you didn't know nothing.
Right.
And you were being a whole dad. I did not consider giving them that grace because I didn't even know what they didn't know. And I think that that's what I've learned. And I would encourage you or whoever would be obviously listening that if you're about to be a parent or if you're a new parent or even if you've been doing this for a long time, it's like you got to give yourself grace.
I think that's one of those things where after becoming a mom, I had to call my mom and apologize. Like, I get it now.
Listen.
Like, listen, like, I'm
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Like, you were just trying to figure it out too.
Right. Every time something happens, I hear my mom's voice in the back of my head, like, see? See?
Right.
And I'm like, ugh.
Told you.
Yeah. And my daughter, she be talking to me spicy. And I'm like, oh, that's why my mama used to hit me in the mouth. Oh, that right there. Okay. 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 I see it. Man. Yeah. It's like that is the one thing. It's like, but like I said, both my parents have passed. It'll be a situation where I'm like, because if she was here, she wouldn't let me hear the end of it. See? That's why I used to pop you in your mouth. This gentle parenting foolishness. Mm,
Oh man. Well, Alan, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing transparently your
appreciate you.
beautiful story into fatherhood and entrepreneurship. I've definitely learned from it, and I know that our viewers and our listeners are going to learn from it as well. So again, thank you for your time and happy Father's Day.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. This is incredible. I'm looking forward to seeing who else you interview.
Thank you. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Baby Bump and Business. I hope today's conversation reminded you that you're not alone in this journey and that there's real strength in building something meaningful while showing up for your family. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate, review, or share with another parent, creative, or entrepreneur who could use the encouragement. Your support helps the community grow and lets more stories like ours be heard. To stay connected and get updates on new episodes and real conversations from parents in the creative space, be sure to follow us at Baby Bump and Business. Until next time, keep creating, keep growing, and keep showing up for what matters most.